Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan and I just finished watching episode 7 of Ahsoka. So there will be spoilers in this video about it as we discuss what happened. I love how they started this episode with the Hera Syndulla situation. If you've been following this channel, we've talked a lot about the potential of Hera getting court-martialed. Now, if I were in her shoes, I would have just tried to appease Senator Xiono. Say whatever was necessary to keep my command and continue fighting. I'm a coward. My thinking is, as shitty of a person as Senator Xiono is, it's better to appease him and still maintain a position with the New Republic when Thrawn comes. But no, that's not what Hera Syndulla is about. She has a much stiffer spine.
I see, and you protected the New Republic by ignoring direct orders.
No, I protected the New Republic by ignoring you.
This is why she's a general. This is why she's in charge of other people's lives. She has a lot of moxie. And I also really like this line by Senator Xiono here.
Morgan Elsbeth was leading a coordinated effort by the Imperial Remnant.
Objection! Imperial Remnant. Such a sensational term.
So this is really the beginning of this political struggle between two factions within the New Republic that will play a much bigger role later on. One side is worried about the Imperial Remnant. This includes Hera Syndulla, Ahsoka, Princess Leia, and then you have another side who's doing everything in their power to ignore their presence. And I've long awaited for this story element to rear its head in Star Wars. And ever since The Mandalorian started showing us more blue boys and internal politics of the New Republic, I knew this moment would eventually arrive. And now we're here, and we have to think to ourselves, what does Senator Xiono get from taking this stance? Is he an Imperial sympathizer? I don't think so. Does he have a legitimate grievance against militarization? I think that might be the better direction to head towards. We'll reserve this discussion for another video. It's a long one. But it's cool, we're starting to see the New Republic transition from a unified wartime government to a more traditional republic with chaotic political factions and infighting. It's kind of like we're back to episode 2 all over again. Politics, politics, politics. Anyway, in the last episode, we do hear about Princess Leia getting involved in this whole fiasco.
We're overdue at HQ. Senator Organa says she can only give us cover for so long.
And it's kind of sad that we don't get to see her in person once again, and I think we're avoiding a lot of controversy here. Some fans really don't want to see her being brought back from the dead, and you have these Hollywood strikes going on with these actors going on strike, so I'm sure, bringing Leia from the past, using some kind of torturous AI to make her look kind of realistic is just not the right move now, so I get it. And I personally think if the family's cool and the estate is cool, of course bring Leia back. I want to see her. We all want to see her. And I'm pretty sure Carrie Fisher would have been cool with that. She was never upset by her cameo at the end of Rogue One. Actually, she thought it was some old archival footage, which is kind of funny. But yeah, seeing C-3PO arrive in Leia's stead is like a bittersweet moment. It's always good to see C-3PO. I mean, it's great to see him with Moxie, by the way, because at this point, he's kind of royalty in Star Wars, right?
Identification. I do not need to show you identification. I am C.
3PO. Welcome. But why are you here?
But the most important thing we learn from this exchange is Princess Leia's role in the leadership within the New Republic. It's a good sign.
Court cannot admit evidence of this kind from a mere droid.
Yes, well, Senator Organa is willing to overlook this misstep, but asks that you address any further concerns to her directly in her role as leader of the Defense Council.
That's sass from C-3PO. I think the guy needs a memory wipe. But anyway, this is really good news for the New Republic. The fact that ex-Jedi Princess General Senator Hutt-Killer Leia is the head of the Defense Council. This gives her enough influence to neutralize whatever nonsense Senator Xiono is trying to get into. And her trust of individuals like Hera Syndulla, who she did work with during the Battle of Hoth and on Lothal, means that she'll be more open to hearing what Hera Syndulla has to say, which will make the New Republic ultimately more prepared for Thrawn's return. Yes, I'm predicting that he's going to be successful. And even though I'm sure Thrawn will run circles around whoever they put in front of him, unless maybe it's Akbar, having your military prepared at the strategic level is still going to be a huge bonus in a longer conflict. That doesn't mean, of course, that Mon Mothma is just going to listen to everything Leia says to her. I mean, these two actually clashed a lot during this period of time, especially on issues like demilitarization or shrinking the size of the New Republic. Princess Leia would be called a warmonger by some of these individuals, like Senator Xiono. But Mon Mothma knows that she can't afford to have favorites or friends here. She wants to stay nonpartisan. She wants to be the George Washington figure we all know that she's capable of. And this is why she's ultimately a great first leader for the Republic. And even Senator Xiono will defer to her. So even if Hera and Mon Mothma go way back, the Twi'lek saved her ass from the Empire when she first defected, Mon Mothma still will question what Hera's motives are, whether she's too emotionally attached to this mission, as she should in a position of power. And I think, Mon Mothma will ultimately make the right decision. It might be a little slower because she's trying to be impartial and lay down these foundations, but this is important. Remember, it's not about this moment in time, it's about the longer survival of the New Republic and establishing precedent and rules. And whatever mistakes she might have made in laying the foundations of the New Republic, it really does not take away from the fact that she will always be the steely-eyed leader of the rebellion. Remember, she kept the most excited and militant members of the rebellion in check until they were finally ready to deploy their forces. And when they did do it, it was perfect timing. Her pacifist tendencies and her natural hatred of authoritarianism always made her more thoughtful and careful with her approach to grand strategy. And I expect nothing less of her in this battle between the New Republic and Thrawn. Next, we go on to Ahsoka the White, training while hologram Anakin watches. It's nice to see Anakin's old recording intact still. I believe these holograms were amongst some of Ahsoka's most prized possessions.
He made 20 or more of these recordings. This was his last one.
Very thoughtful. I never realized.
Yeah, that's Anakin for you on Monday. Thoughtful enough to stop in the middle of the war and, record 20 different holograms for his apprentice. These holograms will become a very important part of her life. And then on Friday, he strangles his wife and executes a bunch of children. Whatever happens between these two, I'm really happy to see that Ahsoka still recognizes the good parts of Anakin. The hero who took her beneath his wings and truly armed her with all the tools she would need to survive. Anakin is an extreme teacher, but like most teachers, he has his good sides and bad sides. It does reflect reality a lot better, doesn't it?
He was a good master.
When Ahsoka arrives to Peridia with the space whales, we find that Thrawn has properly prepared defenses to counter this terrifying threat. He's definitely going to take these beasts seriously, especially after what happened last time. And what does he use? Space mines against space whales. Classic Thrawn. The guy's brilliant. And these mines are terrifying. They seem to have thrusters on them that propel them directly at enemy ships. Once Ahsoka clears the minefield, a classic Star Wars chase ensues. And we find ourselves weaving in and out of not an asteroid field, but a super dense cluster of whale bones. Thrawn, being the smart commander he is, tells his pilots to pull back. And that limits losses for Thrawn. Remember, Thrawn's already admitted that they've taken quite a lot of losses being trapped on this planet for 10 years, and it's nice to see him kind of concerned with the overall strategic view of the battle, as he should be. It's Thrawn. What's even more interesting is Morgan Elsbeth finally comes back with a file on Ahsoka, which Thrawn asked for in the last episode. Like any good commander, Thrawn likes doing his research. Well, actually, he goes above and beyond. I mean, he not only researches the individual, he researches the culture. But this case is kind of a little special here.
The master was General Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys saw Thrawn talking in the last episode, but he really enjoys hearing himself talk. He almost savors his own words. I mean, Lars Mikkelsen, a wonderful job. Like Thrawn kind of purrs and just savors everything. And when he's focused, when he says something abruptly, it means he's very concerned about something. You see, Thrawn used to know Anakin Skywalker and also Darth Vader. He even suspected that these two individuals were the same people, not through the Force, but by how they moved and how they thought. You see, Anakin and Thrawn actually fought together during the Clone Wars. They infiltrated a separatist factory that was trying to make battle droids with cortosis on them. That would have been a huge problem for the Jedi. And later on, Thrawn, along with Vader, were a part of a rotating cast of underlings who did the Emperor's bidding. And so Thrawn knows exactly how dangerous and volatile Anakin/Darth Vader is.
And if she's anything like her master, she'll be unpredictable and quite dangerous.
Meanwhile, back planetside, Ezra and Sabine are catching up. I think it's kind of cool how Sabine mentioned Zeb, who's training new recruits. I really hope we get to see Zeb again, maybe not in this season, but the next. He's already made it into The Mandalorian, and they did an excellent job bringing him into live action. A much better job than they did with that, Grand Inquisitor with his fat head. Now this villager versus bandit battle gives me complete Lord of the Rings vibes. Yes, you already have the broken city of Minas Tirith over here where the witches live. And now we have orcs on wargs chasing the Fellowship or something. The Night Sisters are as freaky as ever, and we actually learn something new about their powers here. It seems like these sisters operate in threes the best. They use their skills to triangulate the location of Ahsoka, making me wonder if one of them gets eliminated. Do they lose their abilities or do they get weaker? If you guys didn't know already, Wiccans really love the number 3. There's a lot of literature about it. I also have to say, using witchcraft to essentially direct artillery fire is something I never believed I'd see. So thank you for that, Filoni, you wild man, you. And speaking of Filoni, I was talking to my editor about this, Congo. I was mentioning how this battle between these bandits and these completely unarmed pacifist villagers is classic Filoni. He does this a lot. It's one of his tropes. We see it in the Clone Wars, and we also see it in The Mandalorian. And I think this could have really gone wrong. It could have been a really boring fight. But the fact that these villagers have massive shells on their back and their homes look like APCs does add an interesting element to this. Although a pure defensive strategy with no offense can never win a conflict, it does allow the villagers to hold on long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The separation between Shin Hati and Balin's skull is unexpected. We'll need to look at this more in another video. You guys should subscribe if you haven't already. I mean, we're going to do a lot of talking about this episode in the coming week. But yeah, anyway, it seems like Balin's skull is going off on his own, and I'm confused because I thought these two were in it together, you know? Skull and Hati until Ragnarok. And a second look at the Night Troopers here makes me think that they are in fact alive. There's just too much flexibility in their movement. But then again, Merrick also seemed to move well. I'm guessing being made out of dust gives you good flexibility. But it's also the voices and coordination between these stormtroopers. They really do sound alive and aware. And so I'm starting to think that maybe these red ribbons on their armor are not a part of some spell, unless it's some kind of spell to protect them from some greater evil. But anyway, it's hard to make a battle interesting when one side refuses to fight, but they make a good go of it in this episode. Circling the Wagons turns this from Middle Earth to Midwest, you know, settlers versus Comanches kind of stuff. And Ahsoka versus Balin's Skull Part 2.
Didn't expect to see you again.
Disappointed?
Hell no. Now, after the first duel between these two, we talked a lot about how Ahsoka went into this fight a bit hot-headed and unfocused. She used one saber instead of her customary Jarkai dual grip. And so when she does pull out her Shoto blade this time around, I get a bit excited and also a little worried for Balin's skull, because Ahsoka's not holding back here. It was also fun seeing Ezra back in action. The second Ezra goes, "The Force is my ally," and we see that old Ezra maniacal look on his face, I knew we were in for some fun. And bad ideas, as Balin's skull says, the kid's a Boken Jedi, man. Completely Boken. What I didn't see coming is that Ezra would refuse to use a lightsaber and he starts fighting like some unarmed monk from an RPG game. He's kind of airbending, right? That's what it looks like. It should be mentioned though, Ezra picks up a blaster later on and starts shooting people. That's kind of a no-no for most Jedi. So I wonder why he's not willing to grab the lightsaber, but he's willing to shoot people. Further away, Ahsoka and Balin's skull are evenly matched, and Huyang comes out of nowhere with air support to separate the two. Seems like these two individuals have separate goals. Balin's skull only half-heartedly tries to stop Ahsoka this time around, and Ahsoka is more than willing to save this battle for another day. She needs to get to Sabine. We've done a lot of speculation so far about what siren song is attracting Balin's skull. Is it some ancient evil? Is it Abeloth? Is it a threat so great that Thrawn and the New Republic will have to join forces? I don't know. Great to see the good old LAAT in the scene, and yes, this is a LAAT. It's the patrol variant, and it was used by the Coruscant Guard and later the Empire. I really love how it looks like it has little TIE fighter foils on it. I also really like the deployment of the stormtroopers here. It's nice to see them with an overhead drone giving Thrawn an overview of the battle. It's an appropriate little detail that makes the battle seem more realistic, and it really does fit the characteristics of Thrawn. After Ahsoka joins the fray and Balin dips, Thrawn realizes that he's lost, and he's not discouraged though, unlike Morgan Elsbeth, who's distracted by the tactical setback. As usual, while the rest of us are playing Rock, Stick, Landmine, I don't know what the rules of that game is, don't try it at home, Thrawn is playing 3D chess once again.
With our enemy distracted, the cargo transfer is now almost complete, which means we shall soon leave this forsaken place.
Ahsoka is a match for Balin's skull on the battlefield maybe, but her mind is not a match for Thrawn's.
Ahsoka Tano has lost the one thing she could not afford to lose today.
I really like that Thrawn called for a retreat and has his forces go back onto the gunship. For all of you guys who read about Thrawn in the novels, both Legends and also in canon, you know this is exactly the kind of stuff he would do. He was a rational individual. He knew he had to treat his troops with a bit more care than your usual Jedi or Imperial military leader. And it's awesome that Filoni is showing this. It's really the little things that Dave Filoni gets right, so good job. Now, in the last few episodes, I was talking about how I was worried about the pacing of Season 1. I was just worried that there were so few episodes left that they would just hurry and rush things. And now I'm kind of, you know, my fears are subdued. I kind of see what they're trying to do here. There's going to be no rush back to the New Republic. You know, I believe the season will just end here on Peridia, or maybe as Thrawn returns to the New Republic. And I think he will return because of his statement about Ahsoka just running out of time. And I also think that maybe some of these individuals, maybe they won't make it back with Thrawn. As Thrawn told Sabine, like, if you don't make it on this ship, how are you going to get back? Unless these whales, like, go backwards. I don't know. But yeah, I kind of like this idea that the good guys lose in this first round. I think it builds up the stakes even more and allows us to have this more interesting conflict between the New Republic and Thrawn. You know, in the galaxy. Hopefully we'll see like grand strategy, big battles. You know, Star Wars has been missing this for quite some time. But anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna get some sleep. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button because we're gonna have a lot more to talk about. See you next time.